Hey everyone, Cubworks LL with you here, adding another knife to my list of reviews, and this is the Kershaw Vapor 1640. This knife was designed by Ken Onion at Kershaw, and overall, done quite a nice job, I'd say. I'll just progress with some quick outside dimensions of the blade and knife. The knife, when closed, get my little caliper out here. I'll just set that to 0, even though we're not measuring that fine. I'll do that anyway. Comes to just under 4 inches, basically 4 inches by anything other than the caliper. And open, I don't have that much room on my caliper, so get a tape measure for that. Open reads just under 7 inches. And the blade length, when open, is just under 3 inches. So, certainly still legal to carry in most places. Now, I'll just do a quick weigh check. A little scale here. And in ounces, it comes to 3.1, which is 88 grams. So, this is a light EDC knife. To me, everyday carry / tactical use, maybe. I say tactical because we've got a pretty slim profile on the blade here. Not much for a real heavy duty knife. Like if we compare to a wider bladed knife like the Endura, which has a big fat blade, you can see the difference even just on this camera. Quite a lot wider and heftier on a blade like this, but a much bigger size, different class by me. And overall, I'm going to classify this as mainly an EDC, maybe defense blade, you might say. I'll address the blade now. The steel itself is AUS 6A, which is basically AUS 6, I think they're trying to say. I don't know why they added the A. I've done a little bit of searching around, can't seem to find much of a good answer, other than it's Kershaw, giving their knives an old name. And the steel itself is quite good. I'd rather see AUS 6 myself than 440A stainless. This has, I assume, superior edge holding capabilities than 440. And edge holding and retention is seen to be quite good. As you saw from my little cutting test on the beginning of the video, it hacks through some pretty reasonable stuff, and that was all on one sharpening, and still holding the same edge right now. And holding pretty strong, to be honest. And just a little more on the blade. As far as sharpening, I brought the relief cut on this back just a little bit. Not a whole lot, because this isn't very hard steel and you don't want edge rolling or anything like that. But just back a hair, probably a couple millimeters. Got a little bit finer of an angle for better sharpness. And as far as sharpness, I'd call this basically razor. If you look on their website, they say it's got their shaving sharp edge. But to me, I guess it might do it. But I'm not seeing very amazing results. Yeah, kind of a shave, but leaves hairs. Oh well, you're not going to use it for that anyway, hopefully. So on here as well, we've got the ambidextrous thumb studs. And they serve their purpose quite well. As you can see, it nice flick action. Works quite well, and I believe I can do the same with the other hand. Yep. So, quite well in their purpose. The blade has this sort of load and then release design. As you can see, there's no way to make this open, which I like. It's a nice sort of hang back on the lock. And then when you reach enough pressure or load force against the pocket clip, not the pocket clip, excuse me, the thumb stud pushing upwards, it'll just sort of release. So it helps open the blade the whole way rather than just sort of half opening like this. Or if you have a blade that doesn't have a catch toward the beginning, you'll see it doing that. So enough of the blade now, onto the handle. The handle is made of 410 stainless steel, which is just, of course, the softer version of 440 and 420. As the numbers get smaller, the steel is softer, but also much more corrosion resistant, which is a really nice thing for the handle. It doesn't need to be very hard. And on the handle, we've got this perforated hole design here, where just sort of to keep the knife lighter weight and nice open air design. Easier to keep it clean and free of any obstructions. So, quite nice for an EDC blade. And further back, right here, further ahead, excuse me, we've got the pocket clip, which Kershaw's pocket clips are actually quite nice. They're better than most what you'll see. My favorite is still by Spyderco. Their pocket clip design is pretty much unbeatable, or at least for anything that I've had experience with. And some various other guys have agreed with me on that point. They do very well with their pocket clips, but Kershaw's suffices. It goes in your pocket mostly every time, catches over there. It's just pretty shallow, the amount of lip they've got here to help over your pocket. And the profile of the knife, when it's in your pocket, looks like so. So overall, a pretty low profile, which is a nice thing. To me, I'd like to see the blade the knife a little more discreet. If you look at some of SOG's knife, they've brought the clip so where the knife is mounted actually even below your pocket, to where you can't even see. It's still accessible, but it's actually a pretty cool feature. This I'd like to see maybe moved back a little further, but it still serves okay. Then moving away from the pocket clip, we can see just this little indent on this other side of the knife here, which is for right-handed users. And that's about all the features I'll cover, other than the locking system, which I shouldn't omit, very big part of the knife. And this is what most people would call a liner lock. If you look on their website, they call it a frame lock, because the whole side of the frame just slides under there, but I just basically call this a liner lock. It doesn't have separate little liners to do it, but it's basically the same system, so why complicate things? Then, finally, we'll just go to some pros and cons of this knife that I have found. And I'll start off with their ambidextrous pocket clip, or what they should have is an ambidextrous pocket clip. As I've mentioned, they've got that on the thumb studs, both for left and right-handed users, but they've got no way to reverse the pocket clip for carry as a left-handed user, which to me is a very big part. So that kind of bugs me a bit. I also would like to see maybe a tip up carry method, which would be with the pocket clip spun around and sat up here. And that wouldn't be hard to do on this knife. This has got pretty hard steel, and it's just drilled straight in for the threads. And it would be a pretty simple procedure, really, to have it four-way clip design. That would have been a nice touch. But, oh well, I guess for the price you pay on the knife, which I should have mentioned earlier possibly, is $40. So it's quite a cheap blade and knife, to be honest. It's really quite reasonable for the performance you get. That's about all I really have to complain about this. Other than, I don't really like the pocket clip system all that much. I find if you're really whacking away, it can start to hurt your hands a little. But for the most part, it's pretty good. And the knife lends itself okay for a reverse grip as well, if you're one of the people that use that kind of grip for any reason at all. But overall, I'd give this rating out of 10. I'd probably put 7 overall on this knife. 7 out of 10. If we factor in the price, I would give this pretty much a 10 out of 10. Simply because it's quite good performance for that price of knife. The only things that are just a sign that it's not that high end is the steel, AUS-6 steel, which to me actually isn't all that bad, I suppose. I like it better than 440 again. And we've just got a little bit of blade play, as you can probably see here. Not a whole lot, but enough to be just a little bit of annoyance. Nothing that'll really bother. Like, the lockup is still very solid. I'd trust this any day. But for the most part, quite a well-designed knife. Pretty happy with it. So everybody, thanks for watching my review of the Kershaw Vapor. Thanks for tuning in, and keep your blades sharp.